What if I told you that the world's first computer wasn't built in California? It wasn't built in the 1800s. It wasn't even built in the Renaissance. It was built over 2,000 years ago. Pulled from the bottom of the sea, corroded, broken, forgotten. And when scientists finally understood what it was, it rewrote history. This is the story of the Antikythera Mechanism, the 2,000-year-old computer we still don't fully understand. The year was 1901. Sponge divers off the coast of the small Greek island of Antikythera were exploring a shipwreck. At first, they found statues, marble figures, bronze artifacts, treasures of the ancient world. But buried among the debris was something strange. A lump of corroded bronze. It looked like nothing special. In fact, it looked like a rock. But when it cracked open, they saw gears. Not one, not two, dozens of gears. Tiny, intricate, interlocking bronze gears inside a 2,000-year-old object. That should not have existed. For decades, the device sat in a museum in Athens, misunderstood, ignored, because no one could explain it. Ancient Greeks built temples, they built statues, they built ships. But precision gear systems? That was supposed to be medieval technology, at least 1,000 years later. And yet here it was, rusting quietly, waiting for someone to look closer. When X-rays were finally used to scan the fragments in the 1950s, everything changed. Inside that corroded lump was an incredibly complex system. More than 30 bronze gears, carefully cut teeth, mathematical ratios, astronomical cycles. This wasn't decoration. This wasn't jewelry. This was a machine, a calculating machine, an analog computer, built in ancient Greece around 100 BCE. Let that sink in. The Antikythera mechanism could predict eclipses, it could track the cycles of the moon, it could follow the movements of the sun, it could map the known planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. It could even account for the irregular orbit of the moon, something that requires advanced mathematical modeling. This was not guesswork, this was precision engineering. And here's where it gets unsettling. We don't know who built it. We don't know how many existed. We don't know why the technology disappeared. Because after this device, there is nothing like it for more than 1,000 years. It's as if someone flipped a switch and then flipped it off. Imagine living in 100 BCE. No electricity, no printed books, no telescopes, no modern tools. And yet someone was cutting precision bronze gears with such accuracy that modern engineers are still impressed. Each gear tooth had to be measured, calculated, positioned perfectly. If even one tooth was slightly off, the entire prediction system would fail. This wasn't a toy, this wasn't symbolic, this was functional. It worked. The front dial showed the zodiac, the Egyptian calendar. Rotating pointers marked celestial positions. The back dial tracked eclipse cycles. One of them followed the Saros cycle, an 18-year eclipse pattern known today by astronomers. But here's the twist. The ancient Greeks encoded it mechanically, with gear ratios. This means they understood mathematical astronomy at a level far beyond what most people assume. Now ask yourself something uncomfortable. If they could build this, what else could they build? Some historians believe the mechanism was a one-off masterpiece, a rare genius invention, maybe built in a workshop in Rhodes, perhaps connected to the teachings of Archimedes.
Yes, that Archimedes, the mathematical genius of the ancient world. Roman writers even described mechanical planetarium devices attributed to him. Could the Antikythera mechanism be a descendant of that lost knowledge? We don't know, because most ancient technical texts are gone, burned, destroyed, lost to time. Think about the Library of Alexandria, a place that may have contained scientific knowledge centuries ahead of its time. If devices like this were documented there, we may never know. History doesn't just move forward. Sometimes it collapses, and knowledge disappears. The level of craftsmanship in the Antikythera Mechanism is stunning. Bronze plates inscribed with tiny Greek text, instruction manuals engraved directly onto the device, guides explaining how to read it. This wasn't experimental. It was meant to be used. It was portable, roughly the size of a shoebox, a cosmic calculator in your hands. Imagine opening a wooden box, turning a small crank, and watching the heavens move before your eyes. Think about this comparison. The first mechanical clocks in Europe appeared around the 1300s. Complex astronomical clocks developed in the 1400s. That's over 1,400 years after the Antikythera Mechanism. So what happened? Why didn't the technology continue? Why didn't Rome mass-produce these? Why didn't it spread across Europe? That gap is one of the greatest mysteries in technological history. Some say the knowledge was too specialized. Others argue it required elite education. Perhaps only a few master craftsmen understood the math, and when they died, the knowledge died with them. In the ancient world, knowledge wasn't stored in the cloud. It wasn't printed millions of times. It lived in fragile scrolls and in human memory. Lose the teacher, lose the skill. Lose the civilization, lose the technology. Modern engineers who reconstructed the device were shocked by its sophistication. The gear system used differential gearing, something not widely seen again until the Renaissance. It modeled variable lunar speed. It predicted eclipses decades in advance. And it did all of this mechanically. No electricity, no silicon chips, just bronze, math, and genius. Here's what makes this story powerful. The Antikythera Mechanism proves that ancient people were not primitive. They were not intellectually inferior. They were not waiting for modern civilization. In some ways, they may have understood the cosmos more deeply than we assume. When you hold a smartphone today, you're holding layers of accumulated knowledge. But imagine if society collapsed tomorrow. How many people could rebuild a microprocessor from scratch? Very few. Now imagine 2,000 years passing. What would remain? Maybe just fragments, maybe a corroded mystery, maybe something that future generations would stare at and say, "This shouldn't exist." The Antikythera Mechanism forces us to rethink progress. It suggests history is not a straight line upward. It's more like waves, rises, falls, golden ages, dark ages, and sometimes forgotten brilliance. Was it alien technology? There is no evidence for that. Everything about the device reflects Greek mathematics and craftsmanship. This was human, pure human intellect, which may be even more astonishing because it means that 2,000 years ago, human minds were capable of extraordinary precision, extraordinary imagination, and extraordinary engineering. Today, scientists continue scanning the fragments using 3D imaging, high-resolution tomography, digital reconstruction, and even now, new inscriptions are being deciphered. New details are emerging. We still don't fully understand everything it could do. And that's humbling. It's easy to assume we live in the most advanced age in history, but the Antikythera Mechanism whispers a different message. Advanced doesn't always mean first. Modern doesn't always mean superior. And forgotten doesn't mean primitive. Somewhere in the ancient Mediterranean, a workshop once buzzed with life. Bronze shavings on the floor, scrolls covered in calculations, a craftsman hunched over tiny gear teeth, carefully cutting, measuring, filing, knowing that one mistake would ruin everything. Did he realize he was building something 2,000 years ahead of its time? Or did it feel normal to him? And here's the final thought. If one device survived by accident, pulled from a shipwreck, what else has been lost forever? How many breakthroughs sank beneath the sea? How many discoveries burned in forgotten libraries? How many ancient engineers were centuries ahead of their age? We may never know, but one thing is certain. The Antikythera Mechanism changed the way we see history. It reminds us that genius is not new. It reminds us that knowledge can vanish, and it reminds us that sometimes the past is far more advanced than we ever imagined. And maybe, just maybe, we're not as far ahead as we think. If this fascinates you, there are more lost technologies waiting to be uncovered, because history still has secrets, and some of them are ticking quietly, like ancient gears beneath the sea.